This small patch of ground has not experienced many changes since 1867. It is simple, uncomplicated land. Rolling hills are bordered on the south side by Beaver Creek. But as tame as this land looks, the history it holds is anything but that. It has seen a young lieutenant forging ahead to make a name for himself. It has seen a group of natives defending their territory as intruders push them from it. It has seen the last moments of a band of young men's lives as they fight to the end. It has seen horror and bloodshed unimagined. It has seen the grief of a loving father as he yearns to understand his son's last moments. Moments, no doubt, filled with fear and turmoil. This land holds secrets. Secrets that are anything but uncomplicated and simple. Jefferson Parrish Kidder began his life as a farm boy. By 1839, he was admitted to the bar as he began practicing law in the state of Vermont. During that time, he and his wife, Mary Ann, welcomed 4 children, one of them being son Lyman Kidder. When Lyman was 15, his family moved to the Minnesota Territory. Lyman Kidder was an ambitious young man, and at the age of 19, he received his parents' blessing to enlist and serve during the Civil War. He was discharged May 1866. Lyman wasn't content as a civilian, and in October of 1866, once again desired to return to military service. He wrote to President Andrew Johnson and asked to be appointed as a first lieutenant. 2 politicians with connections to his father endorsed his service. He is a brave and high-toned young gentleman of fine personal appearance, has rendered good service to his country, and will prove an honor to the Army. Lyman was sent to the Great Plains. Traveling through Fort Sedgwick to Laramie was his planned path.
I arrived here safely this morning at 6 o'clock. Intend to leave for Laramie at 9 a.m. There has been no Indian difficulty within the last week. Love to all. Yours affectionately, Lyman.
For some unknown reason, between 6 and 9, Lyman's departure was delayed, and he was eventually given a temporary post at Fort Sedgwick. While there, General Sherman questioned the path of the infamous General Custer and insisted on sending him new orders. Taking those orders to Custer fell into the hands of Lyman.
Sir, you will proceed at once with an escort of 10 men of Company M, 2nd U.S. Cavalry, to the forks of the Republican River, where you will deliver to General Custer the dispatches with which you will be entrusted. Should General Custer have left that point, you will take his trail and overtake him. After delivering your dispatches, return to this post. Until you reach General Custer, you will travel as rapidly as possible.
He wrote to his father one final time before his departure.
I start for the forks of the Republican tomorrow with 10 men. I am to carry dispatches to General Custer to be absent 7 days.
My dear sir, I deem it my duty to inform you of the fact that Lieutenant L.S. Kidder left this post at about 11 o'clock on the 29th of last month. When Lieutenant Kidder left here, it was supposed he would be able to accomplish his mission in the course of a week or 10 days at furthest, and his friends are becoming alarmed for his safety. I was commissioned by him before leaving in case any accident should befall him, to convey to you a knowledge of the facts, but have hesitated until now to write you in the hope that, as day succeeded day, some news from him might reach us. I should be extremely sorry to give you causeless alarm by this communication, but his protracted absence raises in my mind a feeling of apprehension. I need not tell you how ardently we all hope for his coming, nor indeed have we given up on him entirely. And be assured I will take the earliest opportunity to inform you of any new facts concerning him. I am, sir, very truly, E.L. Bailey, 2nd Lieutenant, 4th Infantry.
My dear brother, as we have not heard from you since the later part of last month, and as you are in an Indian country where you are exposed to the dangers of the same, we would be pleased to have you write us as often as possible. If you have been spared, as we hope and trust you have, although we may be in suspense for several days, we hope you will be careful not to expose yourself to the dangers you are every day subject to. We all send our love and pray that you may be protected by the divine providence which has protected us all for so many long years. Affectionately, S. W. Kidder.
Dear sir, since my last letter to you was written, it has been ascertained that our worst fears concerning Lieutenant Kidder's fate have been more than realized. It has become my painful task to apprise you of the terrible fact of his overthrow and death. It appears, by information from official sources, that Lieutenant Kidder's party reached the Republican River at the point where it was expected he would intercept General Custer's column. From circumstances, it would seem that Lieutenant Kidder discovered that a numerous body of Indians were hovering about the column of General Custer, and even intercepting his line of retreat upon Fort Sedgwick. His body and those of 10 men of his detachment was discovered by a party from General Custer's command and was decently interred. Deeply regretting the painful circumstance which makes this communication necessary, I remain, sir, very respectfully, your obedient servant, E.L. Bailey, 2nd Lieutenant, 4th Infantry.
My mind is occupied with but one and the same subject night and day. My precious boy lost and gone forever. There's agony in the thought that I shall never behold his dear face again, never again hear his sweet voice say, "Mother." Tomorrow would be his birthday, and 2 months yesterday he started out on that terrible, fateful journey. Oh, what is life that we should desire to live?
Oh, dear Father, it is so hard for us all. You know how hard. You loved Lyman so well. We have the sympathy of all, but that does not console us in this hour of great trial. I do hope you can get his loved remains, but I am afraid you cannot unless you go yourself. He has been dead so long, and I am afraid they cannot be identified. Could we have had but one last look of our beautiful and loved one? Oh, how thankful we would be.
All the bodies found had been scalped and pierced with numerous arrows, as several days had elapsed since the massacre, and as the wolves had disfigured the remains very much, it was impossible to determine whether any indignities or barbarities other than scalping had been perpetrated by the Indians. Very truly yours, George Armstrong Custer. P.S. Upon one of the bodies was a flannel shirt, white with black stripes in each direction. In the pocket of another was a round metallic baggage check, and another was found a printed sutler's check or ticket. These were the only articles found which could by any possibility be the means of identification. If I can serve you in any way, please command me.
I can't start after his remains until about the middle of December next, so I should be obliged to have an ambulance. Were the skeletons of the men separated at the joints, or were they whole?
In answer, I would state that the body of your son, as near as I can now remember, was in the following condition when found. The arms were on the body. The scalp was taken off with nearly all the hair. It had only a little left at the neck, at the back of the head. The skull was smashed in. There was a strip of the shirt left around the neck about 3 or 4 inches broad. The rest was torn off. I cannot remember about the legs. I think they were off. I remain, sir, yours respectfully, Henry Jackson, 1st Lieutenant, 7th U.S. Cavalry.
Even then, within a month of their death, he could not have identified the bones of your son, and expressed the opinion that his nearest relative could also not have identified the remains. After the lapse of 5 or 6 additional months in a common grave, I doubt if you can distinguish your son.
I have the honor to report the following facts regarding the finding of the bodies of Lieutenant Kidder and party of the 2nd Cavalry. My command reached Beaver Creek 47 miles northwest from Fort Wallace on the 12th. I was riding at the head of the column in company with the guide Comstock and 2 or 3 of the Delaware Scouts. Upon approaching the vicinity of Beaver Creek, a most horrible stench was observable. At the same time, numerous vultures or buzzards were to be seen flying in the air. These circumstances, added to the fact that the carcasses of 3 or 4 horses were visible, gave rise to the impression that a fight with Indians had recently taken place on that ground. I immediately thought of Lieutenant Kidder and party, and would here explain how he happened to reach Beaver Creek instead of following me to the Platte. When Lieutenant Kidder left Sedgwick to join me, I was encamped at the fork of the Republican on the north bank. While encamped there, my train, with a considerable escort, was sent to Wallace for supplies, and had returned, making quite a heavy trail. As soon as my train returned, which it did the same day, Lieutenant Kidder left Sedgwick. I broke camp and moved out about 5 miles on the Fort Wallace Trail. The next morning, I left Fort Wallace Trail, bearing off almost at right angles to the west. Lieutenant Kidder undoubtedly reached my camp at the fork of the Republican, found I had left, and seeing the trail fresh, followed. He probably reached the point at which I left the Wallace Trail after dark in the evening or before daylight in the morning, and overlooking my departure from the Wallace Trail, continued to follow the latter, hoping to overtake me. In no other way can his presence at Beaver Creek be accounted for. I was made aware of the mistake on my return from the Platte. I struck the Wallace Trail again about 30 miles north of Beaver Creek, and it having rained just previous to Lieutenant Kidder's having passed over it, his trail was easily seen. Before completing my dispositions for a halt, one of the Delawares returned and reported the finding of a number of bodies of white men within half a mile of my camp. Taking a medical officer and a small party with me, I visited the ground and examined closely the bodies of the dead, hoping to be able to identify Lieutenant Kidder. We found 11 bodies in all. They had been stripped of nearly all their clothing. A few still retained their drawers or shirts. 10 had been scalped and their skulls broken in the most horrible manner. The bodies had been so mutilated and disfigured, I doubt if the most intimate relative could have recognized any of them. It was impossible to recognize in any manner the body of Lieutenant Kidder. One of the bodies had on a woolen shirt, white, with black stripes running in each direction. In the pocket of another, we found a sutler's check. Another had a round metallic baggage check. I can give neither the number of check nor name on sutler's check. Both are in the possession of Lieutenant Moylan, adjutant of the 7th Cavalry.
My dear son, I arrived here this morning at 3 o'clock, in good health but tired riding. The officers will extend to me every facility in their power. Several have volunteered to go with me. It is expected we shall meet Indians, but it is not expected that we will have to fight. Still, we shall be prepared for the worst. Oh, happy sensation that I am within 47 miles of the remains of dear, dear Lyman, and soon expect to clasp them in a father's loving embrace. All advise me not to go to Beaver Creek, but stay here and let the military bring in all the bodies. But no money could hire me to stay the while. I might lose some means of identification. Again, I want to see where he so bravely gave up his precious life, and where he has slept these long, sad months on the ground where he fought his last battle.
I arrived home from my trip with Judge Kidder and brought the remains of his son and 10 men who were killed by Indians last year. The sight on the battleground was terrible. Bones and skulls were scattered in every direction. The poor father had an awful sight to witness. I'm quite tired yet, so will not add more. Your loving son, Fred.
We found the grave at once, had traveled over it when covered with snow. In the morning, exhumed the bodies and found our dear Lyman's almost entire, the most of anyone. I am positive I have his precious remains. His remains we put into a separate box. The others were brought in with us, and they will be all buried tomorrow in the morning in one honored common grave under martial orders and religious ceremonies. His body, with the assistance of the surgeons, I have properly prepared and tenderly laid out in the sheet I took from home with me for that purpose, and have put the coffin into a square pine box, which is ready for transportation.
Over the course of many months and many miles, Judge Kidder was able to finally put Lyman's body to rest in the family plot in St. Paul, Minnesota. In memory of those who died alongside Kidder, but were never able to be identified by their families. Lakota Scout, Red Bead. Sergeant Oscar Close, age 23. Corporal Charles H. Haynes, age 23. Private Roger Curry, age 23. Private Michael Connell, age 19. Private William Floyd, age 19. Private Michael Groman, age 19. Private William J. Humphreys, age 19. Private Michael Haley, age 22. Private Michael Lawler, age 21. Private Charles Telton, age 36.
Right here is where I found the first signs of a battle. This flag marks it. I found several dropped Spencers and some impacted bullets, along as a couple empty shell casings here. Now 4 miles, about 3.5 miles north of here, is where the first white horse was found that had been shot.